Hello my friends, and welcome to this next video where we shall continue our discussion on operators in JavaScript. In the last video, we saw how we could use this assignment operator to actually display something on the screen. So when I click on this, or first of all, let me save my file, and then we have a prompt here that says type a name. So I'm going to type in Dominic and then click on OK. And now when I click on this button right here, this one that says click to show name, we'll see that this text right here changes to my name is Dominic. In that last video, if I had come here to say text1.innerText equals my name, instead of adding the plus symbol here, and save this. Now let's see what we get instead. I'm going to type in a name, Dominic, and then I'm going to click on this button, and you can see only Dominic shows here. The text that we have here, which says my name is, disappears. But by doing it this way, that is by including the plus symbol like this and then equal sign, what is going to happen is that the original text that was there, which was this my name is, will still be there. Only that my name right here, which is the name typed in from the prompt, will be added to it. And if we do it this way and save and type in a name, let's say Ebere, and now click here, now we get my name is Ebere. I didn't say this in the last video, but I thought it's important for me to say it in this one. Now in this video, we're going to talk about comparison operators. Comparison operators are used to check the equality or difference between variables or values. And we have different sort of comparison operators. So we have the equality operator, we have the greater than, less than, greater than or equals, less than or equals, and not equals, and even the strict equality check, and so on and so forth. Now back to our code, and here is my browser. I'm going to first of all clean up all the codes that we have here in our scripting.js file, and then I'm going to save this. Right here on the screen on our HTML page, we're still having this right here. So I think I should just take it out so that it doesn't disturb us. I'm going to take this one out and save. So we just have this I'm learning JavaScript right here. So I'm going to go back to scripting.js file, and let's begin our discussion on comparison operators. The first one that I want to talk about is the equality operator. So that operator is actually used to check if two values or two variables are the same. And in fact, I think I'm going to work right here on my browser's console. I think it's going to be better and clearer if I do it on my browser's console. So I'm going to maximize my browser's window, and we'll begin this discussion. So right here in the console, we're going to start working with the comparison operators. And the first one we're going to look at is the equality operator. So sometimes we want to check if two variables or two values are the same or if they're similar. We do that with the equality operator. So if I do something like 2 equals 2. So I want to check if 2 is equals to 2. Now, if you look at this code closely, you can see that I've used this equal sign here. This is not equality operator. Rather, this is the assignment operator. So what we're trying to do here is assign this 2 right here to the 2 right here. And this is not right. So you can see that if I click on enter, we get a syntax error that says left side of assignment is not a reference. And what that means is that we cannot assign 2 to 2. All right, so in order to use the equality operator, we have to do like this: 2 equals 2, like this. So we want to check if 2 is equals 2. And when I click on enter, we get a true instead, which means that 2 is indeed equals to 2. What if I do 3 equals to 2? I get a false because 3 is not equals to 2. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about is the not equals to. And the not equals to goes like this. We can say 3 not equals to 2. So this is the not right here. This exclamation mark represents not. And so we're saying that 3 is not equals to 2. And 3 is indeed not equals to 2. So we're going to get a true once we click here. But if we say something like 2 not equals to 2, now we're doing 2 not equals to 2. This is false because 2 is equals to 2, right? So if I click on enter, we're going to get a false. So we're getting a false right here. Now, there is even another version of this equality check. So we want to do something like 2 equals to 2. It's almost like the other one that has only 2 equal sign. In this case, we're having 3 equal sign. And this one is known as the strict equality check or the strict equality operator. And if we click on this, we're still going to get a true. So where does this one actually come in? Now, let's type something like 2 equals 2. Looking at these two values, you can see that this right here is a string and this here is a number. In Java programming languages and some other programming languages, you cannot say that a string is equals to a number. There are two different data types. But what happens in JavaScript is that JavaScript converts this string right here because this string is special. If you look at it, this string is containing a number. So you can call it a number string, right? And JavaScript converts this number into a number and then compares it to this number on the right. So if we check this is going to return true for us because JavaScript converts this string right here, this string of number right here into a number and then compares it. But if we want to really check that this right here is not equals to this right here, we can use the strict equality check. So if we do something like 2 equals 2, then we're going to get a false. Because what this strict equality check is doing is that it is checking not just the value, but the type. So it's already saying that this right here is a string and this right here is a number. So definitely this in the strict sense is not equal to this. So we're going to get a false right here. So whenever you want to really check that a value on the left is strictly equals to the value on the right, then you use the strict equality check. Otherwise, if you use the normal equality check like this, you're getting a true. Now, the same goes for the not equality check. That is saying something like 2 not equals to 2. This right here is a string of number, right? So this is a number string. And right here, we're using the strict not equality check, right? So we're saying that this string right here is not equals to this string right here in the strict sense. And this is true, all right? So if I click on this, we're going to get a true. But if I were to say string 2 not equals with just only one equal sign right here, not equals to 2, then we're going to get a false. Because what happens is that since this is not a strict check, JavaScript converts this right here into a number 2. And then it's now checking that 2 is not equals to 2, which now becomes false. So as soon as I click on here, we get a false. So it's important to know how to work with the strict equality check and not very strict equality check. The strict equality check will always check for the type and always check for the value. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about is the greater than and less than. 2 greater than 2. Is 2 greater than 2? This is false, right? We can also say that 3 greater than 4. Is 3 greater than 4? This is false. But we can do 4 less than 3. Is 4 less than 3? That's also false. We can do 4 less than 5. Is 4 less than 5? This is true. Very simple and straightforward, right? And now the next one is the greater than or equals to operator. So if we say 4 less than or equals to 4. Now this will return true, right? Because this is just like in normal mathematics, where we have greater than or equals to and less than or equals to. In this case, we're doing 4 less than or equals to 4. This will return true, right? Because 4 is less than or equals to 4. We can also do 5 greater than or equals to 5, this will also return true, right? We can do 5 greater than or equals 6. Is 5 greater than or equals to 6? This is false because 5 is not greater than or equals to 6. So we're going to get a false. Simply straightforward. So in summary, for these comparison operators, I want to talk about the strict equality operators and the not very strict equality operator. Remember, whenever you use the strict equality operator, it will check for both value and type of the operators. So if we were to do 2 like this, equals to 2, then we're going to get a false because this is strict equality operator. It's going to check for the type, which in this one is string and this one is a number. So it's going to return a false. But in not very strict equality operator, which is just equals like this, we're going to get a true because this one gets converted into a number and then compares to this one on the right, and we're going to get a true. Now we've seen how to compare mostly numbers and then number strings such as this one with another number. Now let's look at how strings are compared in JavaScript. In order to demonstrate how strings are compared in JavaScript, I'm going to first of all clear my browser's console, and then I'm going to come right here and say A greater than B. So what am I going to get? First of all, strings are compared in alphabetical order. So the letters that come way down will always be greater than the letters that come before it. So in this case, you can see that B comes after A. So it means that B is rather greater than A. So this string A right here is less than B. So if we check that this string A is greater than B, we're going to get a false right here. But if we do B greater than A, then we're going to get a true because B comes after A in alphabetical order. And that goes for any letter string that you might want to compare. So if you want to compare Z greater than Y, of course Z is greater than Y because Z is the last letter in the alphabet and Y comes before it. So we're going to get a true right here. But what if we have multiple characters in a string? For example, I have something like A and G greater than B, Y, C. So what happens here? How are these strings compared? Well, they are compared one after the other. So what happens is that JavaScript picks up this first character from this string on the left, which is A, and picks off this first character, which is B, from this string on the right and compares it. So looking at it, you can see that B comes after A. So it definitely means that B is greater than A. And because of that, this string right here, BYC, is greater than this string right here, A and G. JavaScript will not even go on to compare the N and G and Y and C because already it now knows that B right here is greater than A right here. So it definitely means that BYC is greater than A and G. And so if you click on this, we're going to return a false because this A and G is not greater than BYC. So right here, we're getting a false. Now, what if we do something like goat greater than cow? How is this compared? Now again, JavaScript picks off this one right here, the G, and picks off the C right here and compares them. Now G comes way down after C. So it definitely means that G is greater than C, right? So in that case, goat is greater than cow. So as soon as we click, we get a true. Now, what if we do something like goof greater than goo? So what happens? JavaScript looks at the G and looks at the G, they're the same thing. It goes on to the next one. It looks at O and looks at O, they're the same thing. It goes on to the next one. It looks at O and it looks at O, they're the same thing. It goes on to the next one, F and G. Now, which one is greater? G is greater than F. So in that case, Google will be greater than goof, and goof is not greater than Google. So as soon as we click enter, we're going to get a false. And that's it about letters. But something funny happens when we do something like goof greater than Google, like this. So if you look closely, you can see that this G right here is a capital letter. So JavaScript compares the string, and when it gets to F, it sees that this is small letter and this is a capital letter. Now, the thing is, small letters will always be greater than capital letters. Even though alphabetically, G is greater than F, but because this G is having capital letters, it now automatically means that F is greater than G. So always remember that the small letters will always be greater than the capital letters. So in this case, we'll get a true because goof is greater than Google, written like this. So as soon as I click on enter, we get a true. But of course, if we were to do, just like we saw earlier on, goof greater than Google without this one capitalized, then we're going to get a false. Now, let's put up some things on our HTML page and work with our JavaScript, that is our scripting.js file, in order to manipulate the content or elements on our HTML page using these comparison operators. So right here is my Visual Studio Code, and on the right is my browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here and put a button. So I'm going to say button like this. I'm going to say click to show greeting. What I want to do is I'm going to get an input from the user. The user is going to type a name. Then inside of my JavaScript, I'm going to compare that input that the user has provided and check if that input is equals to Dominic as a name. Then I'm going to display a greeting that says welcome Dominic. But if that name is not Dominic, if it's anything else, then I'm going to say welcome Mr. Man, you are not Dominic. All right, so let's go. What I'm going to do first of all is to grab this button inside of my scripting.js file. So I'm going to come right here and then I'm going to say document.querySelector, and then I want to grab the button, right? So I'm going to grab the button and I'm going to store it inside of a variable. So I'm going to say let btn equals document.querySelector button. Now I'm also going to take an input from the user. So I'm going to say prompt, and then I'm going to say please type your name, and I'm going to store whatever the user provides inside of a variable. I'm going to call it my name. So I'm going to say let my name equals this right here. So what I want to do now is, oh, this is BTM. I should have written BTN like this. So what I want to do is whenever we click this button, JavaScript checks the name that we've provided right here through this prompt. That is the name the user provides, and check if it's Dominic, then it's going to say welcome Dominic. But if it's not Dominic, it's going to say welcome Mr. Man, but you're not Dominic. All right, so how do we do that? First of all, we have to know when the button has been clicked. So in order to do that, we're going to add an event listener on the button. So we're going to say btn.add event listener, and then what's the event that we want to listen for on this button? We want to listen for the click event. So I'm going to say click. Now, what should happen when this button is clicked? So I'm going to provide a function that is going to run whenever this button is clicked. So I'm going to provide here a function, a callback function. So I'm going to say like this. So within this function body, we'll have the things that will happen whenever the button is clicked. So what I want to do is now check this my name variable here. So I'm going to say if, and then open parenthesis, my name is equals Dominic, like so, then do something. And so what do I want to do? I want to say an alert, that is throw up an alert and say welcome and then my name. And in fact, let me use the template literal. So I'm going to take this one out and use a backtick like this, and I'm going to say welcome, then dollar, and like this, my name. But if the name is not Dominic, let's say the name is Ebere or Alex or any other name, then what we want to do, so I'm going to provide an else like this, and I'm going to say alert and provide a backtick, welcome, but you are not Dominic, right? So I'm going to say Dominic. Very simple, right? So welcome, but you're not Dominic. And in fact, we can also see the name that the user has provided. So I'm going to use this one and then write my name like this. So this is what I want to happen whenever this button is clicked. If the name provided is Dominic, then it's going to say welcome Dominic. But if that name is not Dominic, if it's anything else, it's going to say welcome that name, whatever the user provides, and say, but you are not Dominic. So I'm going to save this file. Now, as soon as I save, I'm prompted to give in a name right here. So let me say Dominic and click on OK. Now that name has been stored in my name variable right here. So if I click this, click to show greeting, it's going to say welcome Dominic. You can see. But what if I save this file again and run this, and instead I put in a berry and click on OK, and now click to show greeting. It's going to say welcome a berry, but you are not Dominic. So you can see how we've used this comparison operator, in this case the equality operator, to actually display something to the user. And so that's the basics of the comparison operators. The thing about comparison operators that I'm yet to mention is that when we compare values, they either return a true or a false, although we saw it when we were working inside of our console. But it's good to remember that they evaluate to a Boolean value, true or a false. In this case, this one will evaluate to true if the name we provided is Dominic. And if it becomes true, that means this code here will be executed. And in fact, we can demonstrate that if we remove all of this right here and say true, it means that this code will always be executed, because this one will always be true right here, regardless of what we type in as a name. So if I'm to save this and put Dominic and click on this, we'll still get welcome Dominic, all right? And even if I were to type another name, so let me save this file and type another name, we're still going to get welcome Dominic, even though I typed a berry just now. Or we're still getting welcome a berry instead, because we concatenated the name right here. We joined the name right here, okay? So the point is that this line of code will always be executed because this is true. But if this is false instead, it means that the else block will always be executed. So if I were to save this file again and type a berry or even type Dominic, now this one will not be executed, rather this one will be executed. So if I click on OK and then click to show greeting, it says welcome Dominic, but you're not Dominic. So you can imagine, just because this one is false right here, it is always going to be false, and for that reason the else block will always be executed. That's why it's always better to have such a conditional check right here, as we did earlier on. So I'm going to say my name equals Dominic. All right, so I'm going to save this, close this first of all and save, and type in a name, Dominic, and then click on OK, and then click to show greeting. I'm going to say welcome Dominic. All right, that's it for the comparison operators. And in the next video, we're going to see some other kinds of operators that is used in JavaScript, and indeed used in libraries based on JavaScript such as React. See you in the next video. Please, my friends, like my videos and subscribe to my channel. It will go a long way in helping me to create videos like this.